Oh. All right, everyone, welcome. Just to let everyone know that we will have simultaneous interpretation being provided. English speakers may need to select English as their language. Accessing Zoom from your computer, please click the globe icon located at the bottom of the screen. Choose English. If you're accessing Zoom from your smartphone, click the three dots, More, on the bottom right side of your screen. Choose Language Interpretation. Choose English. Press Done on the top right side of the screen. I will now let our first interpreter, Sol Garza, to continue with interpretation in Spanish.
Hola, bienvenidos. Si desean los servicios de interpretación al español, favor de oprimir el icono de globo que dentro de poco aparecerá en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Va a querer seleccionar español como su idioma de preferencia. Si solamente desea escuchar una voz, va a querer asegurar de silenciar su audio original. Si está entrando a Zoom utilizando su teléfono inteligente, va a querer hacer clic en los tres puntos encima de la palabra More o más en la parte inferior derecha de la pantalla. Seleccione interpretación y luego seleccione español como su idioma de preferencia. Después de eso va a hacer clic en Done o finalizar arriba y del lado derecho de la pantalla. Gracias. Thank you. Interpreters are ready for interpretation to be enabled.
Chelsea, if you can do that for me, please.
Yes, it's been enabled.
Great. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July evening community meeting, Clean Transportation Incentives for a Cleaner California. My name is Adelina Paez. I'm an air pollution specialist and regional liaison for the Clean Transportation Outreach section here at CARB. My work is focused on light duty outreach, mostly. I am also a liaison for the planning and capacity grants and tribal coordinator for the Mobile Source Control Division. I will be facilitating the evening community meetings in effort to help with coordination of the funding plan, share program updates, and coordinate presentations on topics of public interest. I would like to take a minute to acknowledge our entire team of folks here at CARB working on the evening community meetings. It does take a village, and we thank everyone for their role in helping coordinate the evening community meetings thus far. Before we get caught up in the details, there are a few housekeeping items we need to address. This meeting is being recorded and will be available on our meetings and workshops webpage in about 2 weeks. Sometimes it does take me a little bit longer, so please just show me a little bit of grace. I am still learning. Let's see what else. We will also include agenda, slides, and an attendee list to the webpage as well. Staff will also drop a link in the chat where more information can be found. Next slide, please. So these meetings are about community and sharing information. Our meeting agreements are here to alleviate challenges and are as follows. Be respectful. Let's be kind and create a comfortable space for everyone to share their thoughts and experiences. Take space and/or make space. If you have a lot to say, great. We encourage you to ask questions, make comments, but please be mindful and leave room for others to participate as well. We only have 2 hours. Listen to understand. Listen without judgment or jumping to conclusions. Lastly, consider equity. We all aim to develop solutions with fairness and equality in mind. People from all over California are here to work together on the clean transportation incentives. These diverse perspectives can overcome barriers. With these agreements in mind, let's continue. Next slide, please. Okay. Our annual funding plan development process involves daytime public workshops and work group meetings on various incentive projects. However, we understand that community members face unique challenges attending these meetings compared to representatives from industry, government, non-government organizations. So CARB continues to host monthly evening community meetings to make it easier for community members to engage with us. Our goal for these meetings are to provide space for community voices and priorities, brainstorm solutions for clean transportation needs, highlight key funding plan information, and foster ongoing communication between staff and the community. Next slide. Okay, we'll just go over today's agenda. Let's see. First up, we have the implementation work group for the Driving Clean Assistance Program overview presented by Tiffany Nguyen, followed by a quick 5-minute break and return for a presentation from Stephanie Parent, Javon Garcia, Maggie Witt, and April Schmitz. They will give an overview of the fiscal year 2024-25 funding plan for Clean Transportation Incentives Funding Plan Kickoff Workshop. After each presentation, there will be time for questions and answers. I will now hand it over to my colleague Ashley for the question and comments portion of this meeting.
Thank you. We
Next.
will open the floor for everyone to ask questions about logistics, technical issues, or anything we have covered so far in the presentation. If you would like to make a comment or ask a question, please use one of the following features. For those using Zoom online, please click on the raise hand option on the Zoom navigation bar. Please note, depending on the screen size, you may have to click under the Participants tab or More tab to find the raised hand option. For those using Zoom on a mobile application, please click on the Raise Hand option in the More tab. For those who are participating by telephone, please be sure to press #2 and we will call on you accordingly. If you would like to email us a question, please send it to cleantransportationincentives@arb.ca.gov, which is shown on the slide. Staff will also drop the email address in the chat for everyone. Please include your name and affiliation, if any, along with your question in your email. My colleague Jessica will monitor the email box and let us know if any questions are sent in. For those on Zoom or by phone, once you are called on, you will be asked to unmute your line, state your name and affiliation, if any, followed by providing your comment or question. First name, last name. Please unmute your line and you are free to ask your question or make a comment. Please remember to state your name and affiliation, if any. For phone number, okay, I'm going to hand it back to Adelina.
So no questions at the moment. Okay. Alrighty. Next slide. Let's see. Sorry, guys. All right. I will now hand it over to Tiffany for presenting on the Driving Clean Assistance Program updates.
Alrighty, thank you, Adelina. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Tiffany Nguyen, and I am one of the staff co-leads for the Driving Clean Assistance Program, otherwise known as DCAP. And tonight, I will be providing updates on items such as incentive pathways, program requirements, eligibility criteria, as well as an expected timeline and regional rollout. To provide a broad overview of the available incentives that DCAP will provide, a low-income consumer at or below the 300% of the federal poverty level, which is currently at $93,600 for a family of 4 and will be updated annually, will be able to enter the program with or without an old vehicle to scrap. For consumers with a vehicle to scrap and for those who do not live in a disadvantaged community as identified by Cal EnviroScreen, they will be eligible to receive a maximum incentive of $10,000 plus a $2,000 charge card or a $7,500 mobility option for those who do not wish to purchase or lease a replacement vehicle. Similarly, for eligible consumers living in a disadvantaged community, a maximum incentive of $12,000 plus a $2,000 charge card incentive or $7,500 mobility options for those who do not wish to purchase or lease a replacement vehicle. For consumers who do not have a vehicle to scrap but will need support in purchasing a cleaner vehicle, they will be eligible for a vehicle purchase grant of up to $7,500 along with a $2,000 charge card incentive. For all three scenarios, consumers needing an affordable loan will have access to low interest rate loans capped at 8% APR through DCAP. Next slide, please. Moving along to the program requirements and eligibility criteria, please do keep in mind that these were developed from pre-existing criteria. Okay. Please keep in mind that these were developed from the pre-existing criteria from other CARB light duty incentive programs. Consumers may only apply for one incentive per household for the lifetime of the program and must not have had previously participated in any of CARB's light duty purchase incentives, which includes the Clean Vehicle Rebate Project or CVRP, district administered Clean Cars for All programs, and any of the statewide and/or regional financing assistance pilots. This is done in an effort to prioritize funding for consumers who have not yet had a chance to participate in one of our programs previously. Participants must have a household income of less than or equal to 300% of the federal poverty level, which is, again, $93,600 for a four-person household. Income will be verified through a variety of documentation, and the process will align with other CARB and Air District programs where applicable. Additionally, participants must be a resident of California and must apply to the DCAP program before purchasing a vehicle, as this incentive is not retroactive. Next slide, please. Participants will be required to partake in program education that includes financial preparations and information about clean vehicle technology types. For participants without a vehicle to scrap and will not be financing their vehicle, there must be a minimum contribution of $1,000 to their clean vehicle purchase or lease. Participants must maintain ownership of the newer vehicle in California for a minimum of 30 months and participate in program surveys. Next slide, please. Both retired or scrap vehicles and replacement vehicles will also have an eligibility criteria that has been developed using pre-existing criteria from other CARB light duty incentive programs. Retired vehicles must be a functioning gasoline or diesel-powered light or medium-duty vehicle under 10,000 pounds gross vehicle weight rating and be able to complete a functionality test. The retired vehicle must also be 2009 calendar model year 2009 or older and have the title issued to the registered owner.
Get in my big truck. It's your truck.
For replacement vehicles, they may be new or used They may be new or used and must have been purchased or leased in California through an authorized dealership. For new vehicles, they must be on the CARB list of eligible vehicles, which will be linked in the Q&A box following this section. CARB is continuously working with vehicle manufacturers to put their vehicles on that list. For used vehicles, they must be 8 calendar years or newer with an odometer reading not to exceed 80,000 miles. For both new and used vehicles, there will be a maximum purchase price cap of $45,000, which does not include taxes and fees. For those needing an affordable loan, loans administered through DCAP's lending partners or through a financial institution of the applicant's choice will have an loan interest rate cap of 8%. Next slide, please. DCAP is expected to roll out in different areas of the state as shown in the map above and will begin in Imperial Valley as shown in the area highlighted in the black dot pattern by August of 2024. By focusing outreach and rolling out regionally, it can be ensured that each region is served equitably and that outreach efforts are intentional and focused on populations and communities that would benefit the most. And with that, next slide, please. You can go ahead and open the floor for a Q&A, and I will go ahead and turn the mic on over to my colleague, Ashley.
We will open the floor for everyone to ask questions about logistics, technical issues, or anything we have covered so far in the presentation. If you would like to make a comment or ask a question, please use one of the following features. For those using Zoom online, please click on the raise hand option on the Zoom navigation bar. Please note, depending on screen size, you may have to click under the Participants tab or More tab to find the raise hand option. For those using Zoom on a mobile application, please click on the raise hand option in the More tab. For those who are participating by telephone, please be sure to press #2 and we will call on you accordingly. If you would like to email us a question, please send it to cleantransportationincentives@arb.ca.gov, which is shown on the slide. Staff will also drop the email address in the chat for everyone. Please include your name and affiliation, if any, along with your question in your email. My colleague Jessica will monitor the email box and let us know if there are any questions sent in. For those on Zoom or by phone, once you're called on, you'll be asked to unmute your line. State your name and affiliation, followed by providing your comment or question. First name, last name. First name, last name, please unmute your line and you are free to ask your question or make a comment. Please remember to state your name and affiliation, if any. I saw Matt Z raise his hand first, if you would like to unmute yourself. Okay, I think we may need to come back to you if you are able to connect.
The next one was Maria Ruiz.
Please unmute your line and state your first name, last name.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Maria Reese. I'm the Associate Director of Outreach and Policy with the Central California Asthma Collaborative. I had a question on, so for the new finance assistance program, it says that any applicant that has previously participated with like CVRP or CVA, they're not able to use the incentive. Does this go for people who applied and were approved but were never able to find a car, so therefore the grant expired, or is it just people that actually went through with the purchase process?
Great question, Maria. I'm glad you asked this one. So this is for folks who have successfully entered and redeemed an incentive. So for folks who have not been able to receive an incentive or have not been successfully redeemed, they can be eligible to into this program.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mhm.
I'm not seeing any more hands raised. Can we check the email to see if any emails have come in?
Nothing in the email just yet.
Okay, we'll just keep moving forward then. Next slide. Okay, I know it's pretty quick into the meeting, but let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break. And then we have a nice presentation set for all of you folks on the funding plan coming up next. So it's 5:25. Let's come back at 5:30. All right, welcome back, everybody. Stephanie, are you on?
Oh, yes, I'm here. I had turned my camera on. Sorry if you didn't see it.
Oh, no worries. Next up is Stephanie on the clean transportation incentives. Draft funding plan for the fiscal year of 2024-25. Sorry, Steph.
No worries. Thanks, Adelina. Good evening, everyone. So I'm Stephanie Parent. I'm the lead staff person over the funding plan for clean transportation incentives, as Adelina mentioned. And we also call this the funding plan. Today, I'll provide a high-level overview of the funding plan kickoff workshop that was held on June 13th. I feel like that's the incorrect date, but maybe my memory slips me. So then I'll hand things off to some of my colleagues who will present on the light duty, mobility, and medium and heavy duty projects that are part of the funding plan. Next slide, please. The funding plan is an annual detailed guide specific to that year's funding cycle. It explains the priorities CARB has for the funding cycle that staff developed in collaboration with interested parties. It describes how CARB plans to spend the funds and sets funding targets and outreach strategies and provides implementation details for each project. These funds are appropriated to CARB through the California legislature and the state budget. Where the state budget allows for flexibility, CARB staff makes recommendations based on collaboration with interested parties for how funds should be allocated among CARB's various incentive projects and programs. The funding plan also includes justification for the recommendations. It also outlines the policy drivers and the vision for investments. The funding plan is developed through the public process. It considers legislative direction as well as feedback and collaboration with interested parties, including community members and community-based organizations. Next, we'll go over the general funding plan development timeline. Next slide, please. This slide shows the state budget and funding plan timeline that occurs over the course of a calendar year. As I speak, the person sharing the slides can hit the arrow on the keyboard to show up some of the different yellow circles that'll pop up. So in June, we kick off the funding plan development process with a workshop. Over the next few months, we collaborate with interested parties to develop the draft funding plan. We hold daytime work group meetings and evening community meetings to discuss draft ideas for that year's funding plan. A second workshop, usually held at the end of August, is where staff presents the draft funding plan for consideration review, and feedback by interested parties. In late August or early September, staff considers all of the feedback and further develops and finalizes the draft funding plan into the proposed funding plan. In early October, we released the proposed funding plan for a formal 30-day public comment period ahead of the late November CARB board hearing, where we present the proposed plan to the board for their consideration. Assuming that the board approves the funding plan, in December, staff begins to implement the changes to projects or programs that the board approved. Next, I'll discuss our incentive programs. Next slide, please. The incentive projects and programs we'll discuss today are part of the broader portfolio of funding that CARB administers to improve air quality, enhance community air protection, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions, as shown on this slide. Each incentive project has its own distinct goals that support the state's broader strategy. It is important to maintain the integrity of each project's goals to ensure that the state achieves both immediate air quality benefits and that it supports the innovative technologies necessary to meet the state's vision of a zero-emission economy. Additionally, outside of CARB, other federal, state, and local agencies have complementary funding sources. Examples of these include the California Energy Commission's Clean Transportation Program and the Strategic Growth Council's community-based projects. We continuously coordinate and collaborate with our sister agencies on these investment programs. Next, we'll go over the policy drivers and guiding documents for the funding plan. Next slide, please. It's not only funding sources that drive how we develop our funding plan. We also look to support the strategies and follow the guidance outlined in numerous other documents, such as the Senate Bill 350 Low Income Barrier Study, as well as CARB's mobile source strategy. Additionally, the funding plan supports executive orders and legislative mandates, such as the governor's executive orders on zero-emission technologies and on equity, and the California Sustainable Communities and Climate Protection Act. Next, we'll look at the incentive funding we've received to date. Next slide, please. This slide illustrates the historical appropriations for the clean transportation incentives over the past decade. This year's proposed appropriation would maintain the approximately $6.1 billion that have been invested since 2013. And I should note, I just said this year's proposed appropriation, but at this point, the state budget has been passed by the legislature. So this would be the actual funding. So for fiscal years 2021-22 and 2022-23, which were the first 2 years of the zero emission vehicle package, or the ZEV package, as we also call it, saw large funding appropriations. These were intended to serve as down payments, with annual funding appropriations scaling down over the remaining years of the ZEV package. Now, let's go into a bit more detail about the funding CARB is receiving for fiscal year 2024-25. Next slide, please. For fiscal year 2024-25, CARB will receive approximately $35 million for the Air Quality Improvement Program, also known as AQIP, to fund projects that reduce criteria air pollutants in the logistics, goods movement, off-road, warehouse, and port sectors. This means the funds can only be used for medium and heavy-duty on- and off-road vehicles and equipment. The total for this fiscal year is $35 million due to the state budget deficit. Next, I'll go over how we report on progress we are making. Next slide, please. In addition to our investment strategies, CARB also reports regularly on the progress of our investments and projects. Progress reports are often provided in the form of formal documents, as well as public-facing tools that display project data in various ways. As you'll hear in later presentations, staff continues to define metrics for the projects we fund, collect data from these projects, and find ways to improve upon the way we report outcomes from the investments we make. Now, we'll discuss the funding plan development schedule for this year. Next slide, please. I'd like to remind you of important dates for this first phase to develop our draft funding plan. From now through August, we'll hold daytime work group meetings and monthly evening community meetings as we collaborate to develop the draft funding plan. Note that evening community meetings are held on the third Tuesday of every month from 5 to 7 p.m., except for June and November due to the June 15th release of the state budget, and this year, the November 21st CARB board hearing. The second workshop on the draft funding plan is scheduled to be held on August 29th. Next, I'll go over how you may contact us. Next slide. I want to emphasize our open door policy, especially to the community members most affected by our policies on incentive projects. We strongly encourage you to reach out to us to meet with staff one-on-one, where we can discuss concerns and potential solutions. Please feel free to reach out to us directly via the team email address shown at the bottom of the slide. A staff person will also drop the email address into the chat. To keep your inboxes up to date on the funding plan development process, please subscribe via the listserv. A staff person will also drop the link in the chat. Now, I'll hand things over to my colleague, Javon Garcia, to talk with you about our light-duty incentive projects and programs. Javon.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Javon Garcia. I'm one of the regional outreach liaisons here at CARB and also the lead for the light-duty incentive chapter of the funding plan. Just want to say thank you for taking your time to come to the meeting today. It's really appreciated. Within this section, I'll be providing updates for the Financing Assistant Pilot, Driving Clean Assistance Program, Clean Cars for All, Zero Emissions Assurance Project, the e-bike project launch, Access Clean California, and the California Integrated Travel Project, all of which projects are focused on individual and household incentives. So with that, can we move to the next slide, please? All right, and just to give kind of some framing to all the programs that I just listed, they all help CARB in their own way to make some progress on its own institutional goals and to help aid California communities. Overall, our light-duty investments strive to, one, reduce greenhouse gas emissions and criteria pollutants, thereby improving air quality and general public health. Second, transform state fleets to clean vehicles, helping that transition by creating an environment that accelerates zero-emission vehicle deployment, while also, three, prioritizing funding projects within disadvantaged communities to address socioeconomic inequities. And finally, we aim to alleviate harms felt by communities as a result of the inequities caused by disparities in health and clean air. All of these are directed by state-level directives, including Assembly Bill 617, Senate Bill 375, and Senate Bill 350, which have all helped these goals come into focus, as they all in different ways express the importance of improving environmental health and its impacts. We at CARB, as an agency, try to incorporate these directives and their equity-driven ideals into every fabric and design of all of our projects and programs. So to go over them a little bit more, I'll talk about those in the next slide. All right, So now I'm going to cover all CARB's light duty program offerings. These projects and programs focus on assisting or supporting individuals, households, and communities with the purchase of zero emission vehicles and really try to help facilitate the transition to more sustainable modes. We understand that environmental harms are felt inequitably across the state by disadvantaged communities. So these programs, through different means, try to tailor the process to fit the communities that we serve. Briefly, I'll outline which each program does and kind of current status. So starting at the top left with DCAP, the new DCAP program expands offerings to people currently not served by our district operated Clean Cars for All program. It does so by providing incentives for eligible low-income consumers towards the purchase or lease of a new or used clean vehicle, and also provides access to low interest rate loans, opportunities for mobility options such as transit passes or e-bikes, as well as other incentives to help offset the cost of charging. This program is anticipated to launch soon, sometime in 2024. All right, moving on to Clean Cars for All. So this program offers residents within one of the 5 participating air districts, which are South Coast, San Joaquin Valley, Bay Area, Sacramento, and San Diego, incentives to lower income California drivers to either scrap their older high polluting car and replace it with a zero or near zero emission vehicle or motorcycle. Participants can also take advantage of alternative mobility options and charging incentives. New efforts include expanding program reach, outreach, and providing better performance metrics. Our California e-bike incentive project aims to provide incentives to low-income Californians to help purchase e-bikes to help those that cannot afford cars and help to reduce vehicle miles traveled. This project is currently in a soft launch phase and will be expected for statewide launch before the end of the year. Access Clean California is one of our multidimensional outreach projects that streamlines access to and coordinates outreach for clean transportation and clean energy equity projects. Access Clean California provides capacity building, funding, and other resources such as web-based centralized application tools called the Benefits Finder, and a searchable database of outreach materials to community-based organizations to support their outreach efforts on behalf of CARB's clean transportation incentives. So essentially a one-stop shop for all of these things. Moving forward, one of the main priorities for Access Clean California will be to expand the program's outreach partner network. The California Integrated Travel Project is a statewide initiative to unify transit in California with a common fare payment system, real-time data standard, and seamless verification of eligibility for transit-related discounts. It seeks to ensure that any transit customer, specifically underbanked customers, can easily pay for transit by accepting EuroPay, MasterCard, and Visa open loop payments. This contract was executed in April 2023. And the work has since expanded to include EV charging and other mobility options such as car sharing, bike and scooter share. But currently the project is working on developing more demonstrations. And finally, our zero emission assurance program project, helps lower income Californians reduce the risk of buying a used ZEV by providing a rebate or vehicle service contract for the replacement battery or fuel cell component. The goal for this program is to begin rollout in 2025. All right, sorry, that's a lot of information, but moving on to the next slide. So for our funding plan this year, given the budget deficit, the legislator did not actually appropriate any funds to our light duty incentive projects, which were the projects that we just saw on the previous slide. However, some projects are using that time to propose policy changes. Some of the others, Access Clean California and California Integrated Travel Project, are not proposing any changes or updates and will continue operating as before. So, however, DCAP, Clean Cars for All, and the Zero Emission Project and California e-bike all have recent developments. The proposed changes or updates are in order. For DCAP, staff are proposing a maximum loan cap change from $30,000 to $45,000. So offering more payment to match vehicle price increases. The second, Clean Cars for All, staff are proposing a new allocation formula. So splitting the funding evenly, 50% across programs, 30% split across programs based on socioeconomic indicators like local population, and the remaining 20% based on prior project success. So they're measuring that by how many projects were completed in the previous year. ZAP staff are proposing criteria for participant eligibility that's currently being reviewed. And the Cal e-bike staff are establishing project guidelines and policies for actually the project launch. So now I'll pass it over to Maggie to discuss mobility projects and some of the policy updates over there. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Javon. Good evening. This is Maggie Witt here. I'm going to talk about our comprehensive portfolio of clean mobility investments. We also call this the Sustainable Community-Based Transportation Equity Projects. Next slide, please. The Sustainable Community-Based Transportation Equity Investments are meant to address the transportation needs of Californians living in disadvantaged and low-income communities. So they are the projects on this slide. They provide funding for a variety of clean mobility solutions that support community transportation needs and help folks get around without owning a car. For this fiscal year, these projects have not been allocated a budget, and CARB staff also don't have any policy changes or updates to introduce. However, I still wanted to be here tonight to talk about them for a couple of minutes, since there are many efforts underway that were funded in previous years and will continue to be implemented in the year ahead. Now I'll describe and provide updates for each of these projects. Next slide, please. First, let's talk about Clean Mobility Options, or CMO. CMO projects are tailored to meet a community's unique transportation needs and to improve access to affordable, convenient, and reliable clean mobility options. Projects can include things like zero-emission car sharing and van pooling, electric and regular bicycle or scooter sharing, and ride-hailing services. CMO started with 7 initial pilots that were overseen by CARB. And this helped CARB gain valuable insights into the clean mobility landscape and to refine strategies for putting out solicitations, selecting and implementing these kinds of investments. And CARB has since transitioned the CMO program to its current form, called the Statewide Clean Mobility Options Voucher Pilot Program, which has been allocated $91 million to date. The Voucher Pilot Program offers first-come, first-served vouchers that fund 1 or more shared mobility services, as well as community transportation needs assessments. CalSTART administers the program statewide in collaboration with other partners. And CMO also supports the Clean Mobility Equity Alliance, or CMEA, which is a peer-to-peer network that helps project implementers and communities share lessons learned and support one another. There have been 2 application windows so far for the voucher pilot program, and they've resulted in 36 community needs assessment awards and 31 mobility project vouchers. And many of these projects are underway or will soon be launched. Next slide, please. Now let's talk about clean mobility in schools. Clean Mobility in Schools funds a variety of clean transportation and supporting projects in and around school communities. Grants provide funding for zero-emission vehicles, charging infrastructure, active and alternative modes of transportation, fleet and energy transition plans, education, curriculum, workforce training, and more. Funded projects are designed and implemented with school officials, students, teachers, and community members so that they'll address school-related transportation needs with solutions that reduce air pollution, greenhouse gas emissions, and vehicle miles traveled. To date, over $34 million in grants have been awarded to 4 school districts, and almost $28 million has been allocated for 4 new grants, which will launch later this year. Next slide, please. The Sustainable Transportation Equity Project, or STEP, is next on the list. STEP supports complex, multifaceted, clean transportation projects that address community transportation needs and reduce vehicle miles traveled. STEP funds a variety of clean transportation and supporting projects, such as public transit and shared mobility, active transportation infrastructure, land use planning and housing policy, workforce development, and clean transportation planning and education. Funded projects work together within low-income and disadvantaged communities to increase transportation equity. STEP currently has nearly $45 million invested in 13 communities, and soon an additional $35 million in new grants will be implemented in 6 communities. Next slide, please. Great. Last on the list of sustainable community-based transportation equity projects is community planning and capacity building. Planning and capacity building provides funding for communities to assess transportation needs, plan for transportation solutions, build partnerships, strengthen workforce training and development, and conduct outreach and community engagement. To date, $15 million has been allocated to Data for Social Good, the planning and capacity building administrator, who will also provide implementation support to the community-led planning projects, as well as some STEP and clean mobility in schools efforts launching in mid-2024. Later this year, CARB plans to release a new request for applications, which will fund up to 15 more planning projects. Next slide, please. All right, to round out this section, these maps illustrate the geographical reach that our community-based transportation equity projects have been able to achieve. While you can see that we've provided funding throughout the state, we're continuing to analyze and update outreach strategies to help us reach even more communities, especially those that have yet to receive funding. One strategy that we recently launched focuses on developing and deploying regionally focused outreach coordinators. These coordinators will develop expertise in and relationships with organizations in their assigned region of the state. We hope that this will help us identify and target communities that our programs can serve in the future. And with that, I will hand it over to my colleague, April, who will present on investments in medium and heavy-duty vehicle and on and off-road equipment. Take it away, April.
Thanks so much, Maggie. Hello all, and thanks for staying on for the heavy-duty portion of this meeting. My name is April, and I'm leading the development of the heavy-duty chapter of this year's funding plan. I will be providing a status update for the Advanced Technology Demonstration and Pilot Program, HVIP, the Innovative Small E-Fleet Project, known as ISEF, our Clean Off-Road Equipment Project, CORE, and the Zero-Emission Truck Loan Program, in addition to details regarding our workforce training and development efforts, and continued assurance that the grantees are compliant with labor standards as required by AB 794. Next slide, please. Thank you. Overall, our medium and heavy duty on and off-road equipment investments strive to continue to support CARB's regulatory efforts, expand support for financial assistance and non-financial incentives for zero-emission, medium and heavy-duty vehicles and off-road equipment, continue and expand support for small fleets and disadvantaged communities, and ensure reduction of air pollutants emitted from medium and heavy-duty on and off-road equipment to ultimately emit no harmful air pollutants. Much like our consumer and sustainable equity incentive projects discussed earlier, The heavy-duty projects have typically focused on bringing cleaner technologies to the heavy-duty sector and supporting our regulations. Now we are placing a greater focus on supporting small businesses and fleets. Starting on the top left, the Clean Truck and Bus Voucher Project, known as HVIP, offers first come, first serve point of sale vouchers designed to help offset the higher purchase price of zero-emission vehicles. We anticipate continued focus on optimizing HVIP for priority market segments, including improving access for small businesses and implementing set-asides for zero-emission school buses, transit buses, and drayage trucks. Our Clean Off-Road Equipment Voucher Project, known as CORE, is a first-come, first-served system intended to accelerate the deployment of advanced zero-emission technology in the off-road sector by providing a streamlined way for fleets to access funding, which will help offset the incremental cost of advanced zero-emission technology, such as forklifts, transportation refrigeration units, and construction and agricultural equipment. The Innovative Small E-Fleet Pilot Project, or ISEF for short, offers vouchers for small fleets to access zero-emission technologies. ISEF encourages innovative options such as all-inclusive leases, peer-to-peer truck sharing, trucking as a service models, and other innovative mechanisms. Our zero-emission truck loan pilot program builds on our legacy truck loan program that closed in 2023. The new program opened in May of this year and was allocated $5 million in fiscal year 22-23 funding plan. We anticipate additional funding will be available from our legacy program in the future. Administered by the California Pollution Control Financing Authority, or CPFA, through California Capital Access Program, or CalCap, the program works by providing qualified lenders with a loan loss reserve account. The Advanced Technology Demonstration and Pilot Project is designed to accelerate technologies in the marketplace. Demonstration projects support pre-commercial technologies, while pilot projects support commercialized technologies to accelerate acceptance. We also have a zero-emission school bus and infrastructure project, also known as ZESB. This is a dedicated funding opportunity within HVIP that helps local education agencies replace older internal combustion engine school buses with new zero-emission school buses and accompanying infrastructure. ZESB is a joint effort between CARB and CEC that offers a streamlined approach through one single application process. Additional efforts supporting small businesses and small fleets focused on equity by addressing workforce gaps in priority populations by collaborating across state agencies and with other partners to co-fund community-driven projects and ensuring funding labor standards are being met, requiring a fleet purchaser of new drayage, short-haul trucks, and on-road terminal tractors attest that they do not have applicable law violations at the time of applying for incentive and is remaining in compliance with applicable laws for the duration of the incentive agreement. Of the projects on the screen, the zero-emission truck loan and the advanced tech demo and pilot projects are not proposing changes this year. As Stephanie mentioned earlier, for fiscal year 24-25, the state budget includes roughly $35 million from the Air Quality Improvement Fund to be dedicated to heavy-duty projects. Staff's proposing to allocate $5 million to the zero-emission truck loan pilot project, while splitting the remainder of the funds between the CORE and ISEF projects, which works out to be $14.9 million to each project. Next slide, please. Lastly, I want to highlight our newer fleet effort of placing greater focus on supporting small businesses and fleet. This is Cal Fleet Advisor. Cal Fleet Advisor is a free technical assistance program that was launched last summer to help owners and operators of medium and heavy-duty vehicles as they move to zero-emission technology. The program has assisted over 600 fleets to date, with almost half of participants identifying as drayage trucks. About 1/3 of participants own just one vehicle, and over half of them are fleets of less than 10. While the program is open to all, staff is targeting outreach towards small fleets who face the greatest barriers to zero-emission vehicle adoption. Participants can expect personalized assistance through the following ways: a dedicated personal advisor who will provide specific insights into vehicle options, charging infrastructure, fuel savings, applying to funding programs, and more. Important resources and referrals to local utilities, local agencies, dealers, and service providers. Bilingual staff proficient in both English and Spanish. Assistance with one-off questions without the need to enroll in the program. And in the newest development to the program, a whole new Cal Fleet advisor team has been trained to assist school bus fleets as they seek zero-emission options. Although advisors can point participants to public resources, they are not available to assist with compliance planning or answer detailed questions regarding compliance with CARB's regulations. Those questions are referred to CARB staff. With that, I believe I will pass that over to Adelina.
Thank you so much for your presentations. They were all full of such knowledge and good information for our public. I will pass things on over to Ashley to open up the Q&A for all sections of the funding plan presentation.
We'll open the floor for everyone to ask questions about logistics, technical issues, or anything we covered so far. If you would like to make a comment or ask a question, please use one of the following features. For those using Zoom online, please click on the raise hand option on the Zoom navigation bar. Please note, depending on screen size, you may have to click under the Participants tab or More tab to find the raise hand option. For those using Zoom on a mobile application, please click on the raise hand options in the More tab. For those who are participating by telephone, please be sure to press #2 and we will call on you accordingly. If you would like to email us a question, please send it to cleantransportationincentives@arb.ca.gov, which is shown on the slide. Staff will also drop the email address in the chat for everyone. Please include your name and affiliation, if any, along with your question in your email. My colleague Jessica will monitor that email box and let us know if any questions are sent in. For those on Zoom or by phone, once you are called on, you will be asked to unmute your line, state your name and affiliation, if any, followed by providing your comment or question. I'm not seeing any hands. Jessica, did you receive anything in the email?
Not at this time. I don't see anything in the email.
Ashley, can you hear me? Jack Schickler?
Yes.
Okay, I'm new to the party, as I wrote to you this morning to Adelina. I'm a heavy-duty expert out of General Motors. Been in emission control for 59 years, and I grew up with it. I left GM after 33 years to start my own business, and I'm pretty much dedicated to emission control on heavy equipment and trucks. I'm just wondering, some of the programs that have been outlined bring up an interesting aspect, and that is to help drayage operators. We're focusing on drayage ourselves right now. We have a fleet in Oregon that wants to deliver in California. They know they're coming forward with the clean truck test program in October. They want to make sure that they pass. And so we've developed a new system for checking a truck by virtue of artificial intelligence to see whether it will pass the regulations 100% of the time of operation rather than just average. We're using the onboard computers to give us enough data statistically and with AI to be able to predict if truck will either pass or not pass. I'm wondering if any of these incentive programs that are designed to help the drayage folks would be interested in what we're doing in order to help the larger truck business. In essence, what they're doing is sticking with their diesel engine. We have a upfit product that is phenomenal in cutting NOx. It meets the 2045 limits by EPA. It cuts fuel usage by 15% typically, and it cuts by about 50%. So it's an 8-hour upfit for less than $5,000 per truck. We're interested in is finding out how we can ally with CARB to bring this to the people that are desperate for a way to meet the new emission regulations, but know that they can't afford a new truck. And at the same time, we want to, of course, eliminate global warming and local overburden, particularly in the port areas. So we wanted to focus on LA and Long Beach as our first focus. So I'm just wondering if this rings a bell or answers a need, or if there's somebody that I should speak with about it.
Jack, all of our heavy duty programs are focused on zero tailpipe emission. Is this technology zero tailpipe emissions?
No, it's still diesel.
That's not something that we are funding any longer. We were funding near zero and hybrid technologies, but at these new rules approach, we're focusing more on strictly zero emission.
Okay. Any of the other programs other than heavy duty? It applies to light duty as well.
Hi, Jack. No, I think that also is the same for the light duty incentive projects as well, where the movement is also towards clean zero emission vehicles.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, forgot to unmute myself before I started making noise. Okay, well, we will start wrapping things up. Thank you again for questions, comments, and all the collaboration. We appreciate your time and ideas to move forward. I guess we can start. Next slide, please. I just wanted to share with you all some upcoming events for the evening community meeting. Our next one is August 20th. And on August 29th, we will be having another draft funding plan for clean transportation incentives workshop. And then the following 3 dates are the next evening community meetings, September 17th, October 15th. There is no meeting in November. This is due to we have a lot of finalization going on with the funding plan, and it will be presented to the board. So we're trying to lighten the load there. And the next one will be December 17th after that. Next slide. All right, this is my contact information. Again, sorry, Jack, for not being able to respond to your email that you sent me today. I have not, I did see it. I have not had a chance to respond, but I will also respond to your email. I did not forget about you. But this is my email. My counterpart and co-host, Jessica Monterosa, she is also a huge help in planning these evening community meetings. Stephanie Parent, who is lead staff on this project or evening community meetings and the funding plan. And on the very bottom is the Clean Transportation Incentive inbox, where you can ask any question in regard to clean transportation incentives of any kind, and someone will get back to you as well. But I am always open to questions, and I can always make sure that it gets directed to the right person. With that being said, let's drop that clean transportation incentives email in the chat just one more time. And also the funding, or sorry, the Gov Delivery link will also be dropped in the chat box so that you can get signed up for the listserv opportunities so that you can get notified whenever something comes about. Did someone have a last question? I think I may have heard someone talking. Okay. Last call. All right. It is 6:15. We are going to end a little bit early. Thank you everyone for attending. I know it's hard sometimes to make these later evening meetings, but it means a whole lot to the public that we are here to answer questions that they need. And to anyone from the public community, we appreciate your attendance and look forward to you next month. Thank you.